Now we are sitting in the brand new, all redesigned 2025 Ford Explorer, and this specific one is the highest Ford Explorer you can buy now. This is the ST. Now, with every new car that we review, you know, we talk about the things we like, but there's also things we don't like. And in today's video, I'm going to go over my top 5 things that I hate about the all-new, redesigned 2025 Ford Explorer ST. My name is Evo, and you're watching God Next. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, and you guys are automatically going to be like, this guy is super nitpicky. To be fair, though, it is a nice car. I'm just going to start off and say that. It's a really nice SUV. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this thing it's nice, but there's parts of it where you can tell Ford really cheaped out. And let's talk about the interior materials. So down here, you know, where the little shifter thing is to go into gear, it's all plastic. And even the shifter thing is plastic. These used to be metal. This is plastic now, and it's all plastic down here, and it makes creaking noises. This right here under the infotainment system makes a bunch of noise, and it creaks. I mean, you know, it's supposed to be the highest end Explorer. I mean, I understand this is a base, but it's the highest end Explorer. It's got nice red stitching around, but there's areas of this thing where it's like you could tell it's still a Ford, you know. And obviously you can say that, okay, well, Ford did that because otherwise this thing would really directly compete with its older brother or its more expensive brother, the Lincoln Nautilus, which technically that's a Ford Explorer with a tuxedo. But nonetheless, the materials in this thing for what it is feel a little bit cheap. It feels like Ford cut some corners on some areas. And again, this is just an Explorer, but it's also the ST Explorer, so it's the highest end one. But let me know what you guys think. If you've been in the new redesign, let me know. Am I just yapping? Am I just nitpicking? Or is this a legitimate thing? You're paying a lot of money for this car, or SUV, excuse me, and you're getting these kind of cheap feeling materials. So let me know down below what you guys think about that. Now, on to the second thing that I want to talk about, and it's gotta be the power distribution within the powertrain. So of course this has Ford's 3-liter twin-turbo V6 EcoBoost, which sits around 400 horsepower, and it's plenty enough for an SUV this size, right? I mean, most people that buy this thing aren't looking to go racing or anything, but it really feels weird. So when you get on this thing, it's quick, it accelerates pretty quick and everything. I mean, it's nice, but it feels like it's holding back, and it's hard to describe on camera or show you guys. You really need to drive it to understand what I'm talking about. When you floor it, you know, it downshifts and it starts accelerating, but it feels like it's not accelerating how it should be. It almost feels like there's just like a lag or a delay on the acceleration. The light just went green. I'm going to floor it, and I'm going to show you guys. So I floor it, and I mean, it pulls, but it feels like it's not pulling as hard as it should be. And I don't know if it's because this thing is still really new and you need to break it in, or if it's just how the engine is. And I sort of think it's how the engine is, because I've driven STs even when they originally came out in like 2020, and it drives nice. Again, it's a quick SUV for what it is, but it really feels like something is just kind of holding it back, or something is just really pulling it back. And I can't put my thumb on it. I don't know if it's the turbos, or if it's just the power bend in general, or maybe even the transmission. This has that 10-speed that Ford is pretty famous for now. But if you guys have driven one, you might know what I'm talking about. Let me know down below. Is this something in my head, or am I actually making a little bit of sense? But let's move on to the next thing. Now, the next thing on here is going to be, again, a little bit nitpicky, but this is just for something because, again, I'm a driver's person. I'm a car enthusiast. When Ford redesigned the Explorer for 2025, they obviously gave it a bigger screen here, which looks nice. This is actually standard now with their all-new tech system that they have, which if you guys are interested in like a tech review, or basically just overall, you guys can check out Aiden's video on this thing where he did a full in-depth review of the tech in this thing. Very in-depth. Really cool if you guys want to learn about it. But my biggest thing that I want to complain about with sort of the tech is I think the instrument cluster is really small. So before the redesign, the Explorer had a bigger cluster and it looked nice. You know, it had everything on it, which this one does. I mean, it's got your speed, it's got your RPM, it's got, you know, fuel and all that kind of stuff, but it feels like they shrunk it to make this bigger. And I'm not a big fan. You know, I gotta be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think it's weird because it looks small. Like the cluster physically, it looks small. And when you have this Blue Cruise little thing here, it feels like it takes up a little portion of the cluster. Granted, it is set on the steering wheel, but if you guys can see what I'm talking about, like if you're sitting, you're just looking straight forward driving, the cluster, you have the little cluster in front of you, and then it seems like the Blue Cruise like sensor thing takes up a decent portion of it, which is kind of annoying. But again, it's kind of nitpicky. It's kind of something that you guys might be like, well, he's just kind of yapping on or nitpicking, and it's true, but it's definitely something to consider because its competitors have a much bigger instrument cluster. Now let's move on to the fourth thing. Now the fourth thing, this is something that I have yapped on about, something I have talked about, and I will never stop talking about, and it's not just the Explorer, it's every single car now. I don't know why. Why are the climate control buttons not physical? Why are they integrated into the screen? Ford does this, especially with the Mach-E and the Lightning. BMW does this, Mercedes does this, I think Audi does this, Chevy does this. It's just utterly mind-boggling as to why this is a thing. Probably to save money and not develop buttons, or I don't know, maybe they think it's easier in here, but give me a dang knob that if I want to turn my climate fan down, I could just push a button and it turns it down. Here I have to click this, see them, okay? And you have to click these little arrows, which sometimes my fat fingers can't click them. This is just frustrating, and it shouldn't be. Like, this shouldn't be a thing. Why can I not have physical buttons? I will pay extra for it. Give me the option, and I will pay the $100, $200, whatever the heck it costs for you to put some buttons in here. Now, the final thing that I really, I guess, dislike or I hate about this thing, it's not really a hate, it's more of a something to consider, is the price that this Explorer is at. So this specific one here, with the way it's set up and everything, is about $62,000 MSRP. Now, it has one option on it, which is you have the pearl white color, which is Star White. It's Ford's name for it. Costs, I think, like $1,000 or something like that. And that's the one option because everything else kind of comes standard. So Blue Cruise comes standard. You have the big screen. You have all the rest of the options, the nice looking wheels and everything. But when you compare it to its direct competitor, the Chevy Traverse, this thing starting MSRP is actually more expensive. Now, when Ford redesigned this thing, you can now get the Explorer ST in either rear-wheel drive or you can get it in all-wheel drive like this one. The rear-wheel drive one starts at around $55,000, which is not a bad starting price. The all-wheel drive one starts at around $59,000, which is more expensive than the Chevy Traverse. Now, with the Traverse, all the stuff that this specific Explorer has, all-wheel drive Traverse, it's about like $2 or $3 grand cheaper than this thing is. And one thing I gotta say, after having driven this with Blue Cruise and driven a GM product with Super Cruise, I prefer Super Cruise. It's less glitchy. It doesn't require you to keep your hands on the steering wheel constantly, and it's really nice. So that's something to consider if you guys are shopping around or if you want to compare it to some other stuff, because the Traverse is going to save you some money. The interior on the Traverse is really nice now, and it's a good-looking SUV, so it's kind of hard to differentiate. Now, the one thing that I will give the Explorer that it has over the Chevy is that in the Chevy, you pretty much only have the 4-cylinder option. You don't have the option of like this twin-turbo V6 where the ST comes standard with that. So that's something to consider. But yeah, the Explorer ST, again, it is a great SUV. I've enjoyed driving it today. It's, I think, a great family hauler if you're planning on using it for that. But some things to consider, like the things I mentioned. Again, let me know down below, do you guys agree with me? Or am I just doing a yap fest? Might be. But I think these are some genuine things to consider if you're going to spend $62,000 on an SUV, when you can look at the competition and potentially save yourself maybe $2 or $3 grand. So if you guys enjoy this type of content, please check out our channel. We also have a podcast, the Accelerate Podcast, where we go a lot more in depth in terms of a yap session. If you guys are interested in those kinds of things, we do talk about different stuff going on in the industry, you know, cars and whatnot. So check that out as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.